Fiat's lovable 500 city car is even harder to resist in 500c convertible form. One of the most affordable routes to open-top motoring is also one of the very best. Cuddly toys, newborn kittens, baby seals, a panda licking a big lollipop, little kids dressed up as teddy bears with big fluffy ears. All the things that make you go, oh. If you're the sort of person that likes everything with a double dose of saccharine sweetness, then you'll be going weak and gooey at the knees at just the thought of all that cuteness bundled up together. And when it comes to cars, you'll be the kind of person that'll take next to no time to fall in love with the little convertible that we're looking at here, Fiat's 500c. This car is cuteness made metal. Good things often come in small packages, and there's little doubt that this little 500 has been a good thing for Fiat, rejuvenating the Italian brand from America to Andalusia. So when the Turin maker offered fixed-top buyers the option of this open-roofed version in 2009, further success looked certain, even though the Cabriolet Premium was a hefty one. But as it turned out, British buyers didn't mind paying a little extra. Though our nation sees less of the sun than almost any other land in Europe, our love of convertible cars remains undiminished, with demand unmatched across the continent. In any case, this still remains pretty much the most affordable route to open-top motoring it's possible to take, and in recent times, fresher air from the exhaust has complemented that available from opening the roof, thanks to the adoption of clever twin-air engine technology. It's a result that sounds very tempting, but is it enough to also appeal to those with tastes beyond the sickly sweet? That's what we're here to find out. Now, step into the 500c, and as you might expect, it's pretty similar to the hardtop hatchback. The driving position is upright but not uncomfortable, and the large thin rim steering wheel and billiard ball type gear knob both add to the retro flavour, while the large door mirrors compensate for the fairly dramatic loss of rearward vision when the roof is fully folded. And to be fair, this Fiat isn't as bad in that respect as cabriolet versions of the Mini or the Volkswagen Beetle, but budget buyers will still need to factor in paying extra for rear parking sensors for perfect peace of mind when nipping into tight spaces. Which is, of course, what you want in such a compactly proportioned urban runabout. This is, after all, a great car for city motoring, especially in the 875cc twin-air guise that I'm driving here. For a start, this particular variant has the kind of engine note to match this car's cheeky retro looks, a kind of putter-putter sound, which seems to be exactly the sort of thing you'd have found in the 1957 original nipping through the back streets of Naples. Not that there isn't a place for the more conventional four-cylinder petrol engines that continue on in the range. An entry-level 69 brake horsepower 1.2 that slots in just below twin-air motoring, and a 100 brake horsepower 1.4 that fits in just above it, expanded out to 140 brake horsepower in hot hatch R bath guise. You can also see why some 500c buyers might continue to prefer the 95 brake horsepower 1.3 litre multi-jet diesel, which on paper matches the Twin Air's frugality, but in practice probably betters it. On the road, this car reveals itself as one of the very few open-top models able to better the dynamic prowess of the fixed-top variant it's based upon. The addition of a rear anti-roll bar and softer springs make this model a much pleasanter prospect to hustle over point-to-point journeys that can actually be completed very quickly, thanks to the perky performance common to all variants bar the entry-level 1.2. That means the Twin Air model I'm driving here, it can get from rest to 60 in around 11 seconds on the way to 108 miles an hour flat out, and it feels faster than that. The useful 200 Newton meters of torque you get from the 1.3 litre multi-jet diesel makes it feel similarly feisty, while the hot hatch, a bath model, rockets from rest to 60 in just 8.1 seconds on the way to a top speed of nearly 130 miles an hour. And at that speed, hairpieces will need to be glued on very firmly when you're driving roof retracted. Though to be fair, one of the many advantages of having what amounts to really a giant sunroof rather than a proper convertible arrangement is that on-road buffeting is very much reduced. It's also worth mentioning that when closed, the two-layer fabric roof does a fine job in sealing out both road and wind noise. It's true, if you work this twin airs two-cylinder engine hard, it can get a bit vocal, but even then the gruff, slightly throbby engine note is characterful rather than unpleasant, and around town refinement is more than acceptable. If you are urban bound and intent on cutting costs, then there's the option of pressing this eco button on the dashboard that cuts engine pulling power from 145 to 100 Newton meters, though that can be a bit disconcerting if you suddenly want to dive for a gap in the traffic and find that you've left it on. I'd leave the thing alone if I were you. Perhaps a better option for townies would be to consider the Duologic semi-automatic gearbox. It's a kind of robotized manual box without a clutch. These sort of people will also appreciate the city mode on the power steering, which can increase the amount of assistance you get at parking speeds. Urban friendly through and through, you see. So, just how much cute can you cram into one car? For goodness sake, even the Tichy manufacturing plant in Poland, where Fiat builds this convertible version of its 500 city car, has a cute name. It's tempting to imagine it as a Willy Wonka style operation where the cars float on rivers of golden syrup down production lines manned by green-skinned chorus lines of Oompa Loompas. A factory of fun where the foreman is a talking spoon and there's a gingerbread man in middle management. Alright, so I'm getting carried away, but who couldn't love a face like this? Faithfully updated from the 1957 original Cinquecento model that actually started life as a convertible first, the tin top version following a few years later, 3 years later in fact. I say convertible, but that model wasn't one in the form that we recognise it today, you know, the whole top half of the car raising or lowering. No, instead it had a canvas top that concertinaed backwards and forwards to suit the weather, a kind of giant sunroof. And 50 years on, either in a nod to the original or in a bid to save costs, this 500C uses exactly the same idea, offering the same B-pillars, door frames and fixed rear windows as the normal standard fixed top version. It's led to some rivals sniffily doubting whether this car is a proper convertible, but loyal buyers don't seem to care, pointing to the ease of the arrangement and the way that you can close or open this electrically retracting 6-foot folding roof at speeds of up to 37 miles an hour via these buttons just near the rear view mirror here. Should you have left your 500 open and be sitting across the road from it enjoying a cappuccino when the rain starts, then there's even the option of closing the roof remotely via the key fob. But however you retract it, there's an awful lot of material to fold. Now actually I found this to be more of a problem in the halfway back position, where the bulging creases create plenty of wind judder that's only partly alleviated by the optional wind deflector you can fit behind the front seat head restraints here. In the fully back position, the concertinaing effect creates a plump sandwich of fabric, but there's less wind judder and you get more of a proper full convertible feeling. Now, unlike the original Fiat 500's canvas roof, this double layered fabric top won't leak or flap about. And as you can see, it rises automatically and very neatly out of the way when you want to open the boot lid. And it has a proper glass rear window. Plus you can order the top in a choice of colours to personalise your car. Now in terms of boot space, there's 182 litres on offer, which is quite a bit more than I was expecting. Compare that to the paltry 125 litres you get in a convertible Mini, and you can extend that further by pushing forward the rear seats to get as much as 520 litres available, though rather meanly Fiat charges extra for the split folding arrangement. Otherwise, the feel is much as it is in any ordinary 500 hatchback, with delicious detailing everywhere around the cabin, from the chrome ringed vents to the circular head restraints. There are a few small things you'll need to get used to, of course. The large steering wheel adjusts only for height, not for reach, although that's mitigated to some extent by the inclusion of height adjustment for the driver's seat. A little more annoying is the way that this circular electronic display in the centre of the dash is almost illegible when your roof open in bright sunlight. And I was expecting more moans from rear seat passengers. This car is, after all, just 3.5 metres long. Actually, I've had none. And that's mainly due to the way that the designers have made maximum use of all the space available to them, with clever touches like these indented elbow cutouts in the side panels. It all explains why I've sat in convertibles 50% bigger than this that offered less rear seat passenger space. There's even decent in-cabin stowage with a usefully deep shelf in front of the front seat passenger, a neat cubby on the driver's side of the centre console, all the usual cup holders and door bins. Even the squab of the front passenger seat folds forward to reveal a concealed compartment. Pricing that demands a £3,000 premium over comparable fixed-top Fiat 500 models means that most 500Cs will be sold in the £13,000 to £18,000 bracket. Now, if paying so much extra for an electrically retracting chunk of fabric on top of the roof seems a bit steep, then it's worth bearing in mind that the 500C specification is a bit higher than the normal fixed top variant, and most notably with the inclusion of an air conditioning system you probably won't want to use anyway when the roof is down. There's a logic in that somewhere. Perhaps so it's better to focus on just how much more affordable this car is than its most obvious rivals, most notably the Mini convertible, which will cost you between £2,000 and £3,000 more model for model, depending on what variant you're looking at. Alternatives to pokier 500Cs might include cars like Renault's Wind or Peugeot's 207cc. But it's in its most affordable forms that this car makes most sense. A budget of around £13,000 isn't usually enough to properly ruffle the hair, but it's quite sufficient here. Whichever 500C variant you choose, the entry-level 69 brake horsepower 1.2 litre petrol, this 85 brake horsepower 2-cylinder twin-air petrol, the 100 brake horsepower 1.4 litre petrol, the 140 brake horsepower 1.4 Abarth, or indeed the 1.3 litre 95 brake horsepower multi-jet diesel. Whichever of those engines you go for, you should find your 500 to be decently equipped in convertible form. Now, split folding rear seats and ESP stability control aren't standard across the range, but most of the other main features you'd expect to find are included on this 500C, including air conditioning, a purpose-designed and decent quality MP3 CD stereo, power steering, colour-coded bumpers, remote central locking and electric mirrors. And of course there's a whole roster of extra cost items that you could consider. Leather upholstery, Bluetooth compatibility for your mobile phone, xenon headlamps, and a really neat blackboard type panel that goes over the front passenger glove box area that you can scribble notes upon. The strongly female audience might also want to consider things like a makeup holder, a fragrance dispenser, even a jewel encrusted Swarovski key fob. One especially nice function that nearly all buyers take up is Fiat's clever Blue & Me infotainment system, which features wheel-mounted and voice activation control for the stereo, plus features which can monitor your driving style and suggest improvements for peak efficiency. A Blue & Me TomTom touchscreen system integrates navigation and phone functions into one neat removable package. But perhaps the most important point to make here is that Fiat hasn't skimped when it comes to safety. In a class where rivals routinely expect you to pay extra for side and curtain airbags, this 500 includes 7 airbags as standard, even in its most basic form. And there's anti-lock brakes with electronic brake force distribution to make them more effective, to make sure that hopefully you'll never have to use them. It all explains why this was the first car of its size to score the full 5 stars in Euro NCAP safety testing. Whatever you think of this 500c's semi-convertible roof folding arrangement, you can't deny that it makes efficient sense, adding just 40 kilograms to the overall weight of this Fiat. And that means that the tin-top model's frugal fuel returns and CO2 emission readings are almost completely unaffected. And what returns they are. This twin-air model is, after all, the world's cleanest and greenest 4-seater petrol-powered production car, able to offer 23% more power, yet 15% more frugality than the best-selling 1.2-litre petrol 500 variant that it's based upon. That means a twin-air model will return you 68.9 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and put out just 95 grams per kilometre of CO2. Returns you can actually improve upon if you go for the dual logic robotised semi-automatic gearbox. You get the same kind of returns with the diesel too, although the pretty small 35-litre fuel tank means that service station visits might still be a little more frequent than you might expect. Now, whether you'd be able to exactly replicate the Twin Air's quoted fuel and CO2 returns in everyday motoring is debatable, but to help buyers try, Fiat has installed a start and stop system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, when you're waiting at the lights or if you're in urban traffic, a gear shift change indicator to help you change up most efficiently and economically. There's also an eco drive system which monitors your driving style and from which you can download tips to help improve it. And there's an eco button on the dashboard which can restrict the engine's torque for better returns in urban motoring. What else? Well, residual values that will be higher than you might expect for a small, affordable little Fiat. Insurance groupings are affordable too, from 9 to 17 for mainstream models, and there are lengthy 18,000 mile service intervals. Go for this Twin Air model, and in addition to incurring zero road fund tax liability thanks to its 95 grams per kilometre CO2 emissions, you'll also be exempt from the London congestion charge. Now, we're used to the idea of paying through the nose for items deemed to be on the cutting edge of fashion, but this 500c provides a welcome break from all of that. Though the premium this soft top demands over its hatchback counterpart seems high, the overall package represents pretty much the most affordable route into soft top motoring, and the car that comes with it is still one of the trendiest on the road. Liable to turn heads whether you plumped for the entry-level 1.2-litre model or gone for something much plusher. Here's a carefree car that's free, sunny and open in its outlook and very difficult to dislike, with a sheer joie de vivre that's central to its charming appeal, able to turn the most mundane of commutes into something far more attractive, a journey to be savoured rather than endured.